Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you gotta get spotted. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, I am not really, was not quite ready for that to start. I was, pulling up the, oh, come on. Don't be like that, Spotify. There we go. Was still pulling the music up, guys. We've got a bunch of stuff to talk about this morning. Kamala Harris, apparently the nominee. Well, let's not say it that way. But it sure looks like Kamala Harris is going to be the Democrat nominee all of a sudden, with a Joe Biden dropping out. Not much of a reaction in markets, but who knows? See how this goes this week. And we're also, the CrowdStrike thing is still going on. That's going to be really, really interesting to watch here the first part of this week. So I'm going to be monitoring that closely. Let's go to the charts. Just talk real quickly about where we're at. Okay, so here's the treasuries. Have not moved a whole lot over the weekend. They're not really reacting to the news that Joe Biden is dropping out, probably because the markets think that that just makes it even more likely for Donald Trump to win, and that they've already priced that in. Okay, S&P 500 taking quite a bit of a hit over the last few days or so, but we are seeing a little bit of upside this morning. We are kind of coming into a weak spot in seasonality. Okay, so be aware. Oil taking another little dip. They're going below 79 now? Are we headed back to 75? Who knows? But that's a pretty significant breakthrough some technical levels there, right? In fact, you can see they kind of came back and tested the resistance and then lower. Gold and silver also not looking so hot. Man, it's really wild to me to see all of those gains by gold given up so easily. But that's what happened. Copper continues to just languish. And then we got the Japanese yen. Well, the Japanese yen is looking a little bit better today. There was a little bit of upside early on in the overnight. I do kind of wonder if that is not more of the intervention, them trying to catch it momentum early. And you can see that the dollar is like right on 104 on our synthetic dollar index right now. And then Bitcoin did take a little bit of a move higher. So yeah, that's pretty good for Bitcoin. And it is anticipated that we will get Ethereum ETFs this week. So that's interesting. Now while we're at it, let's pull up Trading View here to look at some stocks. Well, not some stocks, just one stock. CrowdStrike. I tell you what, I don't think I've ever seen a case as interesting as CrowdStrike. Okay, so it is down from where it closed in the overnight, but not below last Friday's lows. It is awfully close though. I suspect, so my gut feeling on this one is that CrowdStrike will go lower, and once you get basically like below a 20% decline from all-time highs, you will start to see a little bit of acceleration, because 20% is often the point at which fund managers have rules to just automatically liquidate a stock because it's down too much. Okay. This one is going to be really hard because, first of all, how do you judge what the economic impact of that flub they had on Friday was, right? Like, people are going to sue them. Like, how much does the law protect them? I just don't know. I really don't think you can judge that. I don't think that we'll really have any clue how bad it is for CrowdStrike until we get like earnings or some sort of an update like that, and they start pointing out how many what is the word that we take? You have to put money away because you're being sued or because you have to pay people or whatever the deal is, right? And once we get some direction on that from earnings or whatever it is, I think it's going to be almost impossible for us to really know how bad this could be for CrowdStrike, because it could be nothing. I mean, like, the thing is CrowdStrike is in a really strongly growing sector, and they have like a near monopoly on that sector. So there's Sentinel is another stock, and Juniper Networks is another stock. Although Juniper is not as much on the cybersecurity side, they're really more about providing networking infrastructure. But so those are the competing stocks in that space. You have seen them move up relative to CrowdStrike as CrowdStrike has gone down, but CrowdStrike is still kind of like the nexus of all cybersecurity, and I'm really skeptical that like everybody's just gonna switch off of them, right? So people want to have that allocation, they're probably going to go into CrowdStrike, and that might be why it's being so resilient. But I wouldn't read that, it didn't go down on as that much on Friday as like, well, that it's safe, okay? Because some people are saying that. Like, I saw a lot of people on Wall Street Bets. They're all short on Friday. They lost money on their shorts, and now they're like, well, maybe it's okay. No, it doesn't mean that. It was options expiration. Let's see where it goes today. Let's see where it goes today. Octavia says, I'm looking for long. ZT is weak, though. Well, it is time for us to do our notes, shall we? I need to open up my terminal, resize it here. Let's make it the full width of this. CD note / stream logs. I think today is like way back on the 16th. Yeah, okay. Okay, flows. Biden drops out. No noticeable impact. So that, I guess, is not a flow, but we do need to note it. We do need to note it for historical purposes, at least, right? Okay, we do have 3 and 6 month bill auctions today. Monday flows tend to be lower. Let's go over to Forex Factory here. Just double check, make sure that I've got everything that's going on this week. My recollection, though, is that we don't have a ton. Let's take off the euro there, and that'll make things a little bit easier for us to see. So we are getting the flash PMIs on Wednesday, and we get GDP. Okay, so GDP and core PCE late in the week. Okay, so then my anticipation is light flows today, mostly in line with trend, which at the moment is to the upside. Although I know we are, let's also note that we are near bottom of weekly support levels. Okay, so By the way, good morning, Octavius, Naurus, Jake, Ali Sabki. Is that how you saying him? You're the greatest. Well, thank you so much. Then Octavius saying he's looking for longs, although ZT is weak. Are we seeing any kind of correlation in the cumulative delta on this? Well, the treasuries do look a little bit long, and the 30-year in particular has been long all this morning, but I am seeing flattening, so it looks like it's sell the 2 by the 30. That has me a little bit wary. Flatteners, not necessarily what we're expecting. So, well, I feel like we have so much to talk about with Joe Biden dropping out. I can go into all of that and the politics associated with it, but I do have a little bit of food left over. I don't know why, but I was just not very timely this morning. I think I kind of was in la la land thinking about things. So let me eat some oatmeal here, and then we can go into that. And you guys, you can leave your comments, your thoughts on it in chat ahead of that discussion. Wow, so I'm just popping into Reddit to see if there's any new headlines since I woke up. The first thing that I see is a tweet from Unusual Whales citing that Bloomberg, that Democrats have raised over $50 million in the hours after Biden said he was dropping out. So just as much as they as Trump, well, not quite as much, because it wasn't there 60 million or something like that after Trump was prosecuted and all that stuff. That's crazy. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, Namras kind of getting a little ahead of us here. Strange Biden didn't do a press conference. People saying his signature on the letter looks different to normal. Well, I don't know about that, but here's the thing. Let me tell you something. Since Joe Biden dropped out and endorsed Kamala Harris in kind of a strange way, I have noticed that all of the Democrat accounts are like full speed ahead on Kamala Harris. Like, I'm seeing all of these accounts on TikTok trying to meme her unburdened by what has been comment, which I think is kind of funny because I don't think that it makes her any more likable. But the Democrat Party seems to think it's so smart and clever. You need a distraction. Everything okay, Uzi? Anyways, so like all of those whenever your dog's is in surgery. Okay, yes, let's talk about Kamala Harris. Okay. So, anyways, they're talking about Kamala Harris and trying to meme her up to the top and saying like, oh, she's trying to get people excited about Kamala, which is really quite funny to watch. And I'm so like if you go to Zero Hedge, their story on this is here. Dems go full what is the term they use? Go full throttle on Kamala after Biden drops out of the 2024 race. I'm seeing it, okay? Now here's Nina Jankowicz. This is that lady, remember, that was going to be appointed the disinformation czar, but then Republicans thought that was so dystopian and like really pushed against that they dropped her, that they didn't do it. But she's still out there on Twitter. So here's what she's saying. In 2020, I led a study on gendered abuse and disinformation against women political candidates, and we found 336K pieces of abuse and disinformation targeting 13 candidates. 78% of that targeted Kamala Harris. After Biden's endorsement, here are some narratives and tropes that we should look out for. Number one, sexualized narratives claiming Harris slept her way to the top or that she is sexually promiscuous. In 2020, we found that users engaging with this narrative were more likely to engage with other abuse and disinformation. They attempted to undermine her fitness for office. Okay, well, note that they don't say anything about her alleged affair with what is his name? Willie whatever over there in California. They don't say that story is false, just that the people that shared that narrative were more likely to be engaged in distributing disinformation. So basically what I'm saying is that because Kamala Harris is unburdened by what has been, they're going to be even go harder. They're going to double down. Like basically this whole thing has been, the Democrat Party has been doing all of this narrative control stuff and lying to us, saying that the president is fit for office and going after anybody that questioned that and calling them disinformation and cheap fakes and so forth. And then we find out that that is actually the truth. And now the Democrat Party is just going to reflexively double down on that whole strategy with Kamala Harris is what's really going on. And I think that they'll do it even harder because, like, really, Kamala is not really very popular. Okay, so they're going to have to do a really heavy image rehabilitation campaign with her, right? So they're going to be pushing it very, very hard. So I think we need to be careful. So going back to what Namra said, I like it. I like what Namra said because we got to be careful. That means that we need to just stick to facts, right? We need to just stick to the facts. So it is a fact big trap for Republicans? Maybe. I do think that, the narrative that she is a DEI candidate is definitely going to be there. Because the whole thing was that she did not do very well in the Democrat Party, or in the Democrat primary, rather. She did not do very well in the Democrat primary. And Biden pretty much outright said that the only reason he chose her was because she was a black female. So, yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that she wasn't qualified for the job, but I don't feel that she was qualified for the job. I think that the Democrat primary kind of showed that she was not qualified to be president. And, so a lot of people are going to say that she didn't earn it. Yeah. And that's going to be a narrative that they're just going to fight tooth and nail with. That reaction from Republicans might scare off what minority support Trump's gained. You're already going to see her take white suburban women because of it. I don't know. Let's think about this for a little bit. So, will Kamala eat into the support among minorities that Donald Trump has been enjoying? I would think that it would have to have some effect. Like, as much as especially us Republicans want to think that it's all about the person and their fitness for office, people are very tribal, and they see somebody that is more like them. They are more likely to vote for them because they believe. Well, not necessarily that they believe, but that's just the way that humans are wired, is to have an affinity to people that are like them. Those people are more likely to have their best interest. So it's, that's how we evolved. The way that humans kind of ended up being the top dog on the planet and pushed out the other Homo sapiens species that were similar to us was because of our tribal nature. Like, we're stuck together, right? So I think it could have an effect. But I also think on some level, to be honest with you, this is maybe just wishful thinking, because I don't know how you would prove this, but I would like to believe that the minorities going towards Trump on some level has to do with how bad Joe Biden's policies have been for them, and that they're moving towards the Republican Party because they're seeing that the Republican Party policies will be better for them. Maybe I'm wrong. I guess we'll see. I don't know, though, if Kamala Harris will pull enough support to fix the problems that they have, though. Because, the thing is that they cannot afford to... If Donald Trump gets a larger percentage of the black vote this time around than he did last time, that's really going to help him. That's really going to help him, right? But look, I'm gonna try and be careful. I'm gonna practice here. Like, let's just stick to facts, right? Like, for instance, fact: Joe Biden dropping out was announced on Twitter. In fact, some White House aides and campaign aides said that they didn't know anything and that they found it out on Twitter too. That's a fact. That's a fact. Joe Biden did not have a press conference. He has not had any public appearance since he announced that he was dropping out. That's a fact. See, I don't... Do you smell what I'm stepping in? I don't have to say it. I just point out the facts. It's a little weird and unusual. Like Namrus was pointing out, it's a little weird and unusual that he didn't do a press conference. That's really weird. I think I don't have to go into conspiracy theories. Those may or may not be true. But we do have some facts. He announced it on Twitter. He didn't have a press conference, and it's kind of weird to do it that way. The first ticket since 1976 to not have a Bush, Clinton, or Biden on it? Really? Well, I mean, you put Biden in there. I mean, I think that the Obama dynasty is bigger than the Biden dynasty. Quite frankly, I always kind of thought of Joe Biden as a continuation of the Obama dynasty. Interestingly enough, Obama and co have not endorsed Kamala Harris. Newsom did, I think. Whitmer did. But the Obama folks are all still kind of talking about, well, we would like to have like an open primary process before the convention if we can. So, but I think that the people that are going with the Kamala Harris thing, well, part of it is because Joe Biden endorsed her, and the campaign basically rebranded it as now the Kamala Harris campaign, so she can keep the money that they raised. That may be one of the reasons for Democrats to support that ticket. Personally, though, just my feeling about all of this, I think that making Kamala Harris your nominee is possibly the worst decisions that one of the worst decisions that Democrats could possibly make. I think that making Kamala Harris the nominee is one of the worst decisions that the Democrats could make. Yes, you're going to be able to have more money and everything, but I think the problem with Kamala Harris is really threefold. Okay, first of all, she is not a good candidate. We saw her in the primaries. The Democrat Party in particular really disliked her. I have never seen a politician more like a politician this prominent that, like, we're talking about she's a possible president, that is so universally disliked. Like, Hillary Clinton had low ratings. Okay, like Hillary Clinton was very much disliked after some of the things that she did during the Clinton administration. Republicans pounded on that for years and years and years and years, knowing that she probably had some political ambitions of her own. So by the time she was running for president, her favorability ratings were in the toilet. She had like a 40%, like people that say they approve of Hillary Clinton as a politician, it was maybe like 40%, which is on par with like what Donald Trump is, but historically bad. Okay. Kamala Harris frequently polls 35%. So it's like, you know, Trump has his own group of people within the Republican Party that just absolutely love him, but that is not the case with Kamala Harris. Nobody in the party really likes her, and they are all just kind of, it's pretty wild to me how it's just like the marching orders are given and all of the accounts start pushing Harris because they all hated her. They all hated her. She is just extremely unlikable. She also, to me, does not really seem to know what's going on. Like, her whole image is trying to be like, I'm super smart and I have gravitas. That's why she's using all of these big things like weird phrases and stuff like being unburdened by what has been, right? But it just kind of comes off as fake. It kind of comes off as like her aides came up with that and had her memorize it. But the way that she like says things is like she's talking to preschoolers, and it's super off-putting to voters. So that alone, I think, makes her a really bad candidate. The only person that I would probably dislike more is Newsom, because Newsom's policy is so bad. So she's not a very good candidate in that respect. The second problem is that by selecting Harris, you essentially give up the ability to distance yourself from this shit show that's going on right now. So the Democrat Party lied about Joe Biden's fitness for office. Is by dropping out, he's essentially admitting that he's not fit for office and that they lied to us. And Kamala Harris was vice president. So she was right there at the top, leading this lie to the American people. And then on top of that, instead of turning around and going, okay, let's let the people decide who we want, they're trying to do this, like, you know, control sort of a thing where they just go full bore into Kamala Harris and make that the thing, instead of having an open process, letting everybody have their say, and making sure that what the Democrat Party is doing is actually what Democrat voters want. I think that if you go back to 2016, when it was like Bernie Sanders versus Clinton, I think that Clinton would have still won. Okay. But Bernie Sanders probably could have done better than he did. And it probably would have divided the party a lot more than it has been, right? But by putting their thumb on the scale, Democrats are starting to feel like that the party is not really for the people, that it's just their rich donors. And it's really funny to see, like, so many Democrats, and I've seen this narrative a lot too. Like, there's the accounts that accounts that I think are probably paid shills for the Democrats. You know, there are people that we know that they are like influencers on TikTok or whatever, and they're paid by the Democrat Party, essentially. We know that that's the case. Or there's people that have said that they are. But I've seen other groups of accounts that are just kind of like people that don't even necessarily talk about politics, saying, hey, look, nothing happened until the rich donors said that they weren't going to donate to Joe Biden anymore. Like, they're realizing that the Democrat Party is just as much, if not more, and I say substantially more, beholden to their rich donors than the Republicans are. Like, in the Republican Party, all of the rich donors and everything fought against Donald Trump tooth and nail every step of the way, and he still won. And in the Democrat Party, they got that on lockdown. So much so that now they're pushing possibly the most unpopular within the party candidate ever. Right? So if you are trying to, like, rebuild the party after this disaster with Joe Biden and having to drop out, Kamala is probably the worst person that you can possibly pick. So that, I also think, is a really big mark against her. I forget what my third point was going to be. Those two were the important ones. Saving democracy. Every accusation is a confession. Well, you know, it kind of comes back to this whole thing that the Democrat Party has essentially successfully labeled Republicans as fascists. Like, you go down through a like scholarly definition of fascism where they say here are like the top 12 attributes of fascist governments, etc., etc., etc. And, you know, because fascism was culturally a conservative cultural movement, which is to say that it looks towards the past and says, here were some things that we were doing really well, and then something happened and changed that, screwed everything up, and we want to fix that and go back to the way that things were, right? So that basically allows them to say that anybody that's marginally conservative is a fascist. And, you know, people, like I've been saying been my big thing the last 6 months. People are a lot like chat GPTs, right? They have a neural network, they consume information, it processes it, and then it kind of does chat GPT things. And you can see those similarities. So, it doesn't matter that, that the real defining features of fascism were complete control over the economy, giving up any rights whatsoever. There were no rights in Germany. It was all, you do whatever is best for the party and the state, no questions asked. That's what they were like. They didn't believe in constitutional rights, right? That's really key difference. But they're not going to see that. They're just going to say, oh, well, they're conservative, they take off all these things, right? So then they say they're saving democracy. But people are starting to see through it. People are starting to see, you know what? He's not so bad. And you're the ones that are, trying to control everything. Trying to, using your money and so forth to put your thumb on the scale and make certain outcomes. Sure seems like it. I guess another thing that I would say about Kamala Harris, something that I've noticed, the two things that I said before, those were kind of like, strategically speaking, I don't think that she's a very good pick, right? Personally speaking, I don't think she's a very good pick because she just doesn't seem very smart to me. Like, I can remember in particular, really, really early on, when we were watching one of those Federal Reserve moments, right? Or Federal Reserve testimony before Congress, and Kamala Harris was asking, Jerome Powell questions, and she was just asking the dumbest questions. She just really felt like she didn't know what was going on. It's weird that the dude is basically under a rock. All events and public appearances canceled. It's very it's unusual, isn't it? Unusual, isn't it? Well, the next thing that we got to see here is if the Obama people and so forth are able to successfully push for some sort of an abbreviated primary process. Well, I can only state facts. We haven't seen him yet. I guess another thing that I would point out that I thought was a little bit weird about this situation was that we heard on, I think it was Thursday, that Joe Biden was going to drop out. They said that he was going to drop out as early as tomorrow, but probably on Sunday. And then sure enough, Sunday, 2 o'clock Eastern time, he drops out. Like it was rumored, it happened exactly the way that it rumored. And meanwhile, the campaign the whole time has been saying he's not dropping out. Joe Biden's saying he's not dropping out. And then just all of a sudden, thing hits on Twitter and we haven't heard anything else out of Joe. I think, well, yeah, he does supposedly have COVID. That's true. Or they said that he tested positive for COVID last week. That's true. So could be that he's just being isolated because he has COVID. But then there's this other thing, which is where was it? Biden's brother says they will, quote, enjoy whatever time we have left. What? I don't think it's that bad, is it? Frank Biden told CBS News that ailing health absolutely played a considerable role in the decision. I'm incredibly proud of my brother. Selfishly, I will have him back to enjoy whatever time we have left, Frank Biden told CBS, making it sound like Biden doesn't have long left to live. See, the Republicans are going to, because what the Republicans are, in fact, the Speaker of the House has already said if Biden is not fit enough to run for president again, then he's not fit enough to be serving right now, and we need to invoke the 25th Amendment on him. That makes me really apprehensive because I think that Kamala would do crazy. So, like, Joe Biden did all sorts of things with executive actions and so forth, ignoring the courts and the law and just doing what he wants and playing basically every kind of legal trick that he could. Okay, you're going to rule against my student loan forgiveness, then I'm just going to do the exact same thing. And yeah, you'll strike that one down too, or you're going to have to go through the whole legal process, and that gives me 6 to 9 months or whatever, right? And you totally did that, right? All of the reports that I ever saw was that Kamala Harris was one of the main people pushing for those sorts of things. Kamala thought that they should absolutely do student loan forgiveness, etc., etc. So if Joe Biden stepped down and Kamala became interim president, I think that she would immediately start throwing those things out. Of course, it would be in a strategic way to help her presidential campaign. But so, from that perspective, as a Republican, I'm kind of like, don't push him out. Just let the things go along with the way that they are. I think that Joe Biden, I think one factor that's involved here is that Hunter is being prosecuted. And I think that Joe Biden wants to pardon his son. So, and that's something that you do like the day after the presidential election or the day before you step down or something like that, right? That probably is a factor. Just let them keep it. Don't rock the boat. But it is like reasonable to kind of probe there a little bit to get to get Biden to make a public appearance or something like that. Let's see here. With Biden's decline, I think it's prudent to note the sheer pace of it in the 2020 campaign for all intents and purposes. Yeah. No, you know what? I agree with you. That's not something that I think people would expect like if they knew you or they knew me, if they knew Uzi or they knew me, might not expect us to say that. But as far as I can tell, Biden was perfectly fine during the 2020 campaign. I saw some signs that, he wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but I think that the campaign largely kept him under lock during the 2020 campaign, primarily because Joe Biden was so famous for making gaffes. And they said, you know what? Like, everything is on our side as long as we don't screw it up. So we're just going to not screw it up. I really think that was the strategy behind that. And the Joe Biden's declining mental, like he was old, but him really declining into being senile is really something that's happened since 2020, and really like the past year. Yeah, it's all dopey gaffes here and there, not like Weekend at Bernie stuff though. Yeah, totally. Couldn't he pardon now and step down? So he could, but if you do a pardon right now, it would have an impact on the election, right? So voters typically don't like that sort of a thing, don't react to it very positively. And so that's why you do it like after the voters have already voted, so it doesn't matter to their decision. And then it kind of becomes like, well, nobody can do anything about it, so it's a headline that everybody forgets about. So traditionally, you do the controversial pardonings after the election. I remember when Don Lemon told him at a town hall that he got the vaccine, and Biden's reply was, "You're okay, right?" I wonder if that played a role in his decline, having 6 boosters. Oh, now we're getting into I gotta be careful territory. I don't know if there would have any reason to believe that him taking too many boosters would play any factor in his decline. They do. So Okay. So he has COVID. My first thought is like, well, you know, most people just go through it and they're fine, right? Number two, is that the first time that he had COVID, or did he have COVID before? I thought that he already had COVID. Donald Trump definitely had already had COVID, right? Joe Biden has had it twice? Really? Because remember, the reason that COVID ends up being so deadly is because your immune system overreacts to it. And it basically gets to the point where you have so many white blood cells, they like flood into your lungs, and you basically like drowned in your own white blood cells. So that could be, there could be some people, like for me, I'm wary about it. I'm worried about it. I did not get the vaccine because I'm concerned about the heart implications. When I had it, it definitely had an impact on me, man. Like I don't think that I ever quite got to the same level of physical fitness after COVID. And it's looking like I may never reach that level again. Like being able to snatch 75 kilos, I'm not sure I'll ever do it. Now that my elbow's giving me problems, maybe the elbow goes away and I could be fine. And in my 40s, I should have ample opportunity to do it. But right now, I'm not sure that's going to happen. But it took me like basically 4 years to get like my levels back up, man. It's kind of weird. And I think that it's part of it is that like your body develops this immunity to it, and it's like overly aggressive at attacking it. So if you've already had it twice and you get it a third time, does it get worse every time? It may be the case. You know, it's going to be dependent on the person and your immune system, but there's probably going to be some people where each time you catch it, it's worse and worse. You say it's kind of doubtful he had COVID? Well, I can only say what's reported. They said that he had COVID. Yeah. Well, this is something that, you know, going back always kind of bothered me, was that when this started and the vaccine first came out and everybody said, oh, like it's an incredibly effective vaccine. And then we went and we looked at the studies and we're like, no, that's not, those numbers don't actually mean what you think that they mean. Right. So the studies were correct the whole time. It's just the media misrepresented what the studies said. So we all thought, oh, you get the vaccine and then you never catch COVID. But that's not the case at all. It's not the case at all. Yeah. When they said it was 99% effective, it's not the case at all. People that have had the vaccine are still quite likely to catch it. It's incredibly contagious now. Summer is basically our 6th season down here. Why is that? So, but you don't have like cold season during the winter in Florida? Well, remember that for me, I was kind of had it. You know what? I actually never recovered from this. So like from like what, January to March, I had pretty bad nasal infection. And after that, you know, like I'm not coughing all of the time, but I'm constantly clearing my throat. Like now the allergies are in my throat, which is never went away and really irritates me. Really irritates me. In the winter, we tend to spend more time outside. We do have a cold season in the winter, but it's not like it is in summer. Summers are always big. Oh, that's weird. was wondering, I've been, you know, we have real problems with putting the kids to sleep. Ethan in particular just does not want to sleep. I'm hoping that we got it pretty good last night. Like, it was perfect. We got done. It was like 10 o'clock. Both kids were already asleep. Perfect. Had to wake them up early for church. Had Ethan take a nap, I think he took a little bit too long of a nap. Didn't want to go to sleep, but I think he was still asleep before 11 o'clock. So now today, Mom's got to wake them up at 8 o'clock. Actually, maybe I should go and double check and make sure that happens. But that makes me think about, okay, so the way that we got him to sleep was we took them for a walk in the stroller as the sun was setting. So the lights going down and them not having any, that kind of provides, because part of the trouble is ripping the iPad away from them, because then they get really upset and then it's harder to put them to sleep, right? We're going for a walk, works pretty well, and we take them away at dinner time. Kind of use dinner as a, right, we give it to them while she's making dinner, and then when we're eating, we take them away. But so we go for a walk, and then I'm kind of like, okay, so what are we going to do in the winter? Are we going to go when it's like freezing cold outside and there's snow everywhere for walks? Probably not. We will be on vacation next week, and they tend to do pretty okay in that situation, so maybe that will help. I learned that during COVID stuff, so I make it a point to be out and about in the sun and being around people during the summer. Yeah, my goal is to get a little bit of sun before 10 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning. The sun really does make a big difference. It's actually one of the most useful things you can do if you're sick, is to go get sun. If it's nice outside. It's just like in The Secret Garden. Remember in The Secret Garden, the kid, he's sick and he's been sick forever, and then they start taking him outside and then he gets better? Just saying. The Treasury's kind of coming back down here on the open. So now that we are on the open, we should keep an eye on CrowdStrike here, right? See if there's a sell-off on the open. It looks like that there is. In fact, that first candle has already in the first 30 seconds taken a pretty big dive. I do my 2-mile walks. Dude, a 2-mile walk is a decent amount. Wait, every time that you do that walk, it's a 2-mile walk? 11, 3 to 4, and 7:30? So you walk 2 miles 3 times a day? So you walk 6 total miles a day? That's a lot. I kind of been wondering, so YouTube and TikTok show me stuff about running for whatever reason. It's guys, I'm going through like a, what do we call this, an existential crisis? Is this my midlife crisis? Is Seth's midlife crisis that he thinks about picking up running? Just the whole idea of Seth running, I have this like I don't want to run. I'm not a runner. I hate running, sort of a feeling. But I keep seeing all of this stuff that's kind of like, Seth, you should be a runner. You should be a runner. I'm way better suited for running than I am for Olympic weightlifting. I know that. And in fact, having done the Olympic weightlifting probably would really help my running. And they tell me that, probably the reason why you hated running so much as a kid is because you walked duck foot. But that's kind of gone a little bit. So maybe I could be a good runner. I don't know. So like we're out walking last night. And I'm like, okay, this is when we get into zone 1. I'm going to run down there and run back. I just do a quick little jog. I was like, I think that I'm maybe kind of pushing a little bit on the higher end of zone 1. So, but then like we walk up and down hills because we were up on the mountain. I walk up and down hills and it's like, like this is zone 2. I couldn't, no. Like walking it is zone 1. If I were running up and down the hill, I'd be zone 2 immediately. So how am I actually going to do that? Yeah. Plus the weather is just never quite nice enough for you to run in Utah. like right now, even after the sun sets, it's like 80 degrees. I mostly do it so I don't smoke. Oh, okay. Well, that's actually a really good reason to do it, yeah. Because one of the things that really reinforces the habit of smoking is that you start to feel the stress. I don't know the mechanisms behind it, but like smoking really makes you prone to stress. Like just even the slightest thing going on, you feel stressed out and then you want to smoke. And so exercise could be something to kind of relieve the stress. And when we were in Michigan, we hiked the ledges, a whole lot of climbing and stuff. I was pleasantly surprised at how capable I was of doing that for 3 hours, since, you know, we don't have hills, cliffs, and ledges in Florida. It's weird being up, you know, in Utah. The thing is that there are people that live like up on the mountain, like they're really up on the mountain. Driving up by the golf course, and it's crazy where people build houses. like up there, I'm kind of like, well, if I moved over here, I think that I would have to have completely different cars, because I don't think that my van would be able to make it up, right? Like, you have to have an SUV in that situation. Okay. Decent sell on the open in CrowdStrike, but now back and forth. So it looks to me like we could have continued selling in CrowdStrike, but that it's probably going to be measured. It's probably going to be like a slow and steady decline rather than like they just like really savage it at the beginning sort of a thing. And then it's, you know, all downhill from there. Was finishing that Zero Hedge story about his brother. Says they'll enjoy whatever time they have left, which is kind of a bizarre statement, but nothing else over there though. See, I'm telling you, man, like it's already, look at this on Reddit. Am I the only one around here who is excited about the idea of Trump losing to a black woman? Watch the comments. I bet you in the comments, like there's 534 comments already. How long has this been up for? I know. Oh, okay. It's been a while. So maybe 563 isn't that many. I bet you there's going to be a battle in here over her. There's like, the accounts are out there pushing it, and then like, but the people that remember, that like the political insiders, they're not happy about it being Kamala. They're not. Oh, I just want Trump out of my life. You know what? Here's the problem, though, is that even, okay, let's say that Donald Trump wins here. It might be different if he loses this time, but if he wins here, he probably never goes away. He probably becomes like Obama and is kind of like ends up being the godfather of the Republican Party and is actually calling all the shots and stuff. Why is she called a black woman if she's half Indian and half black? If you're half and half, you get to claim either side if you want to. Don't be racist. If he wins, the riots are going to be insane. If Donald Trump wins, maybe. I'm sure that it will be just like last time. Antifa will have their little fit. That's a little off-putting to me that like the first two comments that are not just, oh, I want Donald Trump to lose are about this whole thing that she's multiracial. It doesn't matter. Whatever. Or they could choose Secretary Pete. Okay. You know what my problem here is? I need to sort by controversial. I wish Trump was a weed smoker so she could lock him up for years. Okay, so one of the reasons why Democrats hate Kamala Harris, is because she was very much one of those DAs that pushed as hard as she could for maximum sentences, etc., for anybody that was locked up for possession of weed. She prosecuted people for marijuana. She's a tough litigator with a sharp mind that in any sane contest would dominate Trump in almost any category were they ever to have an actual debate. So for that, when she did the debate, we did not see that person. We did not see that person when she did the debate. Yeah. I want to see a former prosecutor take on a convicted felon in the next debate. But that got downvoted big time. She's the only Democrat that could lose. She has lost every primary. She was never elected. She is a terrible choice because she has never proven her ability to win. Yeah, I'm kind of tempted to upvote that, but I need to put my thumb on this guy. Like, here's the thing. Like I've been saying, like what's gonna happen is gonna happen. I don't think that anything that I say or anything that we do, like going online, showing our support one way or another, making our voices heard, etc., I don't really think it's necessary. I think it's kind of already baked into the cake. What's going to happen is going to happen. So we should really just try and enjoy the show. I did see the Biden Victory Fund changing the name to the Harris Baldwin Victory. Yep. Kamala's already taken over the campaign, man. And you can see just like overnight, it's like now all of the people on Reddit and so forth, they're posting about Kamala Harris. Doesn't seem organic to me, but you know what though? This is exactly this thread that I'm reading here, Uzi. It's exactly what you were saying, is that people voting for her just because she's a black woman will become like this key point about the campaign that will really be a big stumbling block for Republicans and may push some of that minority support that Republicans were gaining back towards the Democrats. Because all of these comments in here are like, she shouldn't be voted for just because she's a black woman. Like, the first thread that we come into, and it's exactly what you were prophesying. Each country doesn't need a president, but more of a jurors type system, and the people get to vote, not this system today. I completely disagree. I completely disagree, D. So here's the problem, is that you know, it's funny because the Book of Mormon talks about this. Book of Mormon says, if you always had a righteous king, then having a king would be the best thing. But because you can have a king that's unrighteous, it's better to have a different system. It's better to have a republic, essentially. That's what they say. And why is that? Well, because the problem when you have a republic, the problem when you have democracy, the problem when you have oligarchy is people disagree. And so because nobody is ever in complete power, you'll say, here's this policy and I'm going to enact this policy. And then the next guy that comes in and he completely disagrees with that and he says, I'm going to enact this policy. And then as things kind of evolve, you just kind of get this smorgasbord of, people inserting whatever they possibly could every step of the way. And it just kind of becomes a mess. Okay. Now, when it comes to like our laws and all of that, because we have the guiding principles of a constitution, it's not so bad. I think that, the way that this has gone with regulatory agencies and everything, that they've really created a problem, but luckily the Supreme Court came in and rescinded the Chevron doctrine and is going to force Congress to actually have to step up and do things and make actual laws and do things the way that things were intended to be. But that does not work when it comes to the things that the executive does, particularly when it comes to carrying out a war. You can't have that kind of dynamic going on in a war. And there is historical precedent for this. Like Poland in particular. You just get this whole thing that like every time that there's a war in Europe, like it's people invading Poland, right? Well, part of that was because Poland had this system where like nobody really had full power over anything. And in order for anything to get done, you had to have a 60% majority in order to make it happen. And so they were never really able to put up like a strong enough front to deter that kind of aggression. So the founders of the Constitution, I think some people might assume that it was like, oh, well, every country has a head, etc., so we need to have a head too. But the thing is that at the time when the Constitution was made and everything, like they had that discussion. And that was their determination as well, is that for the thing that the executive is going to do, which is primarily like the defense of the country, we do need to have one guy that has the ultimate power to prosecute that war or whatever the thing is. So it is important that we have a president within the system of the rest of the system with a Congress and a judiciary and the checks and balances on it. It's a very important part of the American system. If it were not so, probably wouldn't have an America anymore. They would have like, maybe during the War of 1812 or somewhere or whereabouts before that, the Republic probably would have fallen to a foreign power. Or would have fallen apart during the Civil War. That's another thing. Is Abraham Lincoln's resolve during the Civil War, especially having gone through generals that were just didn't do the war very well for a long time, and he stuck with it and was determined to win. Almost anybody else probably would have given up. Said, well, just let them be. He wasn't. We have the country that we have today, so. I'm telling you, the massive octupling down on the my racism and my misogyny is going to be the entirety of the Harris narrative. You know what though? If it's all that, I don't really think that will actually play well, because the overwhelming feeling that I get, especially among moderates, is that people are kind of sick of the sort of like that policing tone, right? Like people are sick of that. And if you're going to police people on how we say Kamala, It's funny, it's funny because it is pronounced Kamala, right? But I hear people say Kamala. Even on the news, I hear them say Kamala so much that it kind of makes me wonder, is it really actually Kamala and not Kamala? But I'm pretty sure it's Kamala. If you're gonna if you're gonna make a huge deal out of the way that people say the name, I don't think that's gonna play well. That's just gonna make people dislike somebody that they already dislike. Let's see here. It might not. Their direct attacks on Trump tend to roll off Trump supporters, right? But if you associate Trump voters with racism and misogyny, that's how you get people to disassociate it. Maybe. But again, I kind of feel like part of what's going on is that's been the thing for the last 8 years, and people are kind of figuring out that it's just a trick, and are kind of ignoring it now. I could be wrong. It could be that, yeah, because they're going up against Joe Biden and everything, people kind of start to get that impression, but then you go back to, you put a black woman in, and then it's right back, right? It'll mostly work on white women. So the issue I see here, I mean, I think you're making a compelling argument. I do. I don't know if I can for sure say that I endorse your theory, but I think it's a compelling one. And the problem that I see is that I don't think we'll really be able to know until after Labor Day. How long is this Democrat primary situation going to take? Or is it going to be like by next week enough? Because something that could happen is maybe people push for some sort of an open primary process, but that by this time next week, enough delegates have pledged themselves to Kamala Harris that it ends up being pointless. And even if they do hold like these pseudo primaries, Kamala wins, right? Kamala wins. You know what the problem is with her name is, I think the reason it's like that is because English speakers are kind of lazy speakers, and you kind of have to enunciate, because it's really has more to do with how it's enunciated and where the stress is in the word. And that is too much effort for lazy English speakers. I don't think that that's true, that she's polling a little bit better than Trump, but I wouldn't trust any of those polls. So the polling, so one of the reasons why Joe Biden was arguing that he should stay in the race was because their polling was showing that he did better than any of the other Democrat candidates, and that he was the only one that stood a chance at beating Trump. Of course, then his numbers completely fell apart. Again, so like, let me show you. Let's see if I can find this again. Yes, here we go. So here is Kamala Harris. Do Americans approve or disapprove of her? Look at, so that red is approve. So this is the approval rating that we're talking about, right? So again, Hillary Clinton was a historically unlikable candidate, and her approval rating was in the 40%. But look at these polls for Kamala. Like, she was at 40%, but it's dropped in the last 6 months. And like, some of these polls are literally have her down in like the 34%. So I'm going to bet though that that if she solidifies her support and everything, that probably her numbers will firm up and that they will probably come back closer to like what Joe Biden's numbers were. The numbers right now, a lot of people don't even know who she is. Like, one of the things that I thought was really telling as I was browsing around Reddit was, like, you go to the r/politics threads, and there was a bunch of people that were saying, oh, I can't vote for Kamala. I dislike her so much. And there was a bunch of other people saying, like, that can't be organic. How come it's all of a sudden there's all of these people coming out and saying that they don't like Kamala? Well, it's because those people questioning that weren't around. They don't pay attention during the primaries. Are not like the super engaged political insiders. So the reality is that most of the public doesn't really know who she is. So they maybe could rehabilitate her image. And that's what they're trying to do right now. And that's why then on top of that, polling isn't really very reliable before Labor Day anyways. So I think that we're kind of going to be in this limbo zone where we're kind of wondering about what impact this actually has on the race. And we're not going to know for like 3 months is what I think is going on here. But I think that there are some other factors in here. Okay, so like, how good of a everybody's focused on how good of a candidate is Kamala Harris. A lot of Democrats think like, well, as long as it's anybody other than Joe Biden, then we should be able to beat Trump. I think that that's a little bit naive. Donald Trump has really engaged and enthusiastic supporters. The Donald Trump after the shooting is a different Donald Trump. And it's really done something to the nation as a whole. So Donald Trump will be tough to beat, first of all. Okay. And anyways, there could be all sorts of other things happen. Like, here's the thing. After the Trump shooting, and even I think at that time because I've always said Joe Biden's going to drop out, right? I've always said that Joe Biden's going to drop out. But I've been saying, well, Donald Trump's probably going to win, right? But, or rather, not that Donald Trump probably is going to win, but that it would take a miracle to defeat Trump. But the issue is that it seems like that there's a pretty high supply of miracles going on right now. Like, the number of crazy things that have happened just in the past month is just wild. The debates and, people telling Joe Biden to drop out, and then Donald Trump, the attempted assassination, and then Joe Biden does drop out. It's wild. It's wild. Yeah. Thinking that we can predict what the actual outcome of all of that will be is a little naive, I think. I can look at individual factors and I can say that this factor plays well, this factor doesn't play well, right? Like, Kamala Harris is largely disliked by the American public, but she's not super well known. So that's a factor that's very much against her and in favor of Trump. And in fact, I actually think that Trump would have an easier time defeating Harris than he would Biden in like a fair contest. Of course, Biden was senile, and so then it really made it like not a fair contest. Okay, but I think that she's an easier politician to beat. But there is going to be some pickup amongst minorities and so forth. Probably that's a factor in her favor. She could rehabilitate her image. That's a factor in her favor. Hard to say how it really actually comes out in the end. Although I'd still lean towards Donald Trump is probably going to be president. I tell you what, we had that like little decline in the treasuries by about 4 ticks shortly before the S&P 500 opened, but since then it's just been dead. It's just been completely dead. Okay. So it's funny like reading this Reddit thread because these people are actually like, you're seeing people kind of sorted out, right? So like some people don't know, and then you get the answers. Okay, so what qualities does Kamala Harris have besides, did I say it correctly? What? See, this the problem is that even if you know how to say it correctly, you might say it incorrectly simply because it's so not Englishy. What qualities does she have besides identity politics? Response: she's intelligent and articulate. And then somebody brings in a quote from her. So Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong. Yes. That's the way that she... Dude, I should pull up the quote. You know what? You guys probably don't care. But if you do care, go and pull up where that quote came from and listen to her. It is grating. It is grating. She is... The way that she talks is just so unlike you guys. I get like some of the things that you're saying. I think that they're good points, but I don't think they overcome the point of she is just so unlikable. Yeah, there was context. They're right. There is context. She was asked to break it down for the 5-year-old viewers on that. That's true. That's true. There's the comment. She talks like that all the time though, man. And it's like, it's not just the content of it. The way that she says it is so irritating. Oh look, my robot just banned somebody again. Cool. Okay, go ahead and name all of the other candidates you believe were more qualified than her and why. I think that Elizabeth Warren was more qualified than her. I believe, who else was running? Who else was running as a Democrat? Maybe she's better than Beto. There was another big name there. Who was it? I think that Bloomberg would have been a bit more qualified. Cory Booker, I don't know about that one. Gabbard, I forgot about Tulsi Gabbard. I think that Gabbard, you know, like, here's the thing about Tulsi, man. I think a lot of people on the Trump side like her just because she's somebody on the Democrat side that is making the same points as they are and is not like objectively anti-Trump, okay? But she is still a liberal, okay? I would not like her policy. I would not like her policy at all. But she is competent. When she speaks, you sense competence. When she brings up on these matters, she has this kind of ability similar to Obama to whatever is going on, come in and make a reasoned statement. She's really good at that. And more so than Obama, I think that when she makes that statement, you really get the feeling that you're somebody that's serious, has the security of the nation in mind, and knows what they're doing in a way that Obama, I don't think did. She's a serious candidate. She would have been a better pick for vice president. There's no way that he would have picked her. But I think that she was better. This this page that I'm looking at is not the best page though, because it doesn't have Elizabeth Warren in there. Did Bernie run again? I don't remember that. Bernie Sanders would have been a better pick. I don't know if he would have been more qualified than her, but he would have been a better pick. Oh, here we go. Bernie, Tulsi, Elizabeth Warren, Michael Bloomberg. Okay, Amy Klobuchar. So here's the thing. Amy Klobuchar, she fizzled out early because of signs that of like managerial chaos and so forth, and that like everybody that worked for her just absolutely hated her. Okay, and that's why she fell out. But as vice president, Kamala Harris has had the same problems. So yeah. Withdrew before the primaries. Marianne Williams. I totally forgot about that one. John Hickenlooper? Sure. Actually, John Hickenlooper wouldn't have been a bad pick. Back on this thread. Did anybody respond to him? So I would also add, though, in my opinion, almost like all of the people that are like in the running to be her vice president, I think would make better presidents than her. I'm gonna take the bait. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. Who else did I say? Let's see here. The 9 running mates. Josh Shapiro. Josh Shapiro is the big one. Josh Shapiro will probably be the pick. Just to let you know. Mark Kelly, I don't know about that. All right. Roy Cooper. I couldn't help it. Couldn't help it. I couldn't pass that one up. Those people would all be a better pick than Harris. I'm not a Democrat, but I kind of feel like that the Democrat Party choosing Harris as their nominee is bad for the country as a whole. Bad for the country as a whole. Because you need the Democrat Party to like move on and become a real party again. Oh, okay. Crowd strike, man. It's just been nothing but down now. I said it's probably going to be like a slow and steady declines. That's a little bit faster than I thought it would be. But it is like rats fleeing from a sinking ship now on crowd strike. Good grief. Let's keep that up. Let's keep that up because that's getting pretty wild. What about Kennedy? No. So there are, on that list, I was thinking of who is more qualified. That to me was the question. Who is more qualified? Like that's kind of the issue. That's kind of the thing that's being debated here. Is that there's who is the most likely candidate to win versus who is actually the best qualified. Like who would actually do the best job in the role, right? So when I'm looking at the Democrats, I look at who ran last time and who is in the running to be her vice president this time and who would be better equipped. Okay, so anybody that was a governor, I think, is better equipped to govern than Kamala Harris is. There are some people, though, that I think are a little bit off their rocker or showed themselves to just be not very competent during the last primary that I would not put on that list. Okay, so like Amy Klobuchar, her campaign was just an absolute disaster. Okay, Cory Booker, I feel that he's very much in the same category as Kamala Harris herself, which is that she was there, she ran in the primaries, he's a senator, but he just didn't do very well in the primaries. So his campaign organization didn't do very well. Okay, like Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, they showed very competent campaigns. Michael Bloomberg, he had a pretty competent campaign, and he's run a company, so of course he has the executive skills. John Hickenlooper, he's a governor, right? Kennedy is another representative, and a representative that quite frankly is off his rocker, in my opinion. Actually, what are his qualifications? I'm not as familiar with his history. Oh, he's not. Is he not even a representative? Career conviction for heroin possession. Oh. Renewable energy. Gone through his policy here. Okay, so he's even less qualified than her. Pete Buttigieg, that's another one. So Buttigieg actually did pretty well in the campaign, but he was just a mayor, so I don't really think he has the qualifications. Right. But Ted Kennedy, nah. Like people bring him up because he was the only person basically running against Joe Biden, and they should have taken that whole primary process more seriously. Can you imagine if Joe Biden had said a year ago, "I'm not running again," how different of a world we would be in? Who would have run and so forth? I kind of wonder. And then you'd have to think about, so like, I think the top 2 picks are probably like Josh Shapiro and Whitmer. You know, so like in a primary, which of those 2 would have done well? And now, like, whichever one he picks, then you look at the other one and be like, well, if they had actually had a primary, would they have done better? It's kind of, oh, this is going to be an interesting time in American politics. Now, CrowdStrike, since I pulled it up here on the chart, they're having a little bit of a pullback. That's funny. Is it really pronounced booty judge? Yes. It's really pronounced booty judge. Or about as close to booty judge as you can get. Like booty judge is like considered an acceptable pronunciation of it. Like, I think that's funny. It's actually maybe I'm wrong, because booty judge is probably further away from the correct pronunciation of his name than Kamala is from Kamala, but the difference is ka versus ka. So I guess it's a little bit more of a hard A. But then there's also kind of a stress on the first variable syllables rather too. So because I think it's Buttigieg, but it's Buttigieg. She has a perfect record of being natural. Oh, they should pick Pete as her running mate. Okay, so here, this is actually an interesting one. I don't watch TV, so I don't know, right? So they're saying that they should pick Pete. So if we go back to earlier, Uzi's theory on things that, like, you know, doubling down on racism and misogyny as a narrative for your presidential candidate, then if that's really like that effective, then the best pick that she could make would be to pick a gay guy in Pete, right? I don't think that she's gonna pick Pete though. It's another one of those like the people that Joe Biden picked to kind of, you know, be a part of his administration and lead, Kamala and Pete being like the top 2, they've both performed dismally in their roles, right? Like Kamala Harris, you would think, okay, like, who cares, the vice president? Like, who thinks about whether they have a favorable or not favorable opinion of the vice president? Like, that's how unique it is that she's done so poorly in office that people are hearing about it, and, you know, it's affecting their opinion of her. And I would say it's the same thing with Pete. Like, his office, Secretary of Transportation, that's supposed to just be like a throwaway appointment, but it's ended up being at the heart of several controversies, and he hasn't handled it very well. So I think she's unlikely to pick him. Have you created a CD video or a deep dive video on the CD? What do you mean by that? You want me to make a video series and put it on a DVD for you? Because I could do that. think I still have the CD burner that's good with that stuff. Is there a way, a trading question. Is there a way to reference candle bodies with the strategy builder, i.e. previous candle is smaller than the candle body before it? Absolutely. So I don't know how you do it within the strategy builder, but from just direct code, there is open, high, low, close data series. So you just say, take the open minus the close, the absolute value of the open minus the close, and compare that to the absolute value of the open minus the close of the bar before. Furthermore, there are some 35 candlestick patterns built into NinjaTrader that you can use that will probably cover basically every possible, 2-bar candlestick pattern you can possibly imagine. Yeah, so the problem is that you don't know if it's an open bar or a close. If you don't know if it was an up bar or a down bar. So that's why I say you just do the open minus the close and then take the absolute value of that so that you don't worry about if that comes out to be negative. But you're still getting the difference. You're getting the difference in the body of the candle. I warned you, though. When you go down that rabbit hole, I think it's a fun, worthwhile thing doing, but you're probably not going to come with a successful strategy out of it. And if you do, I would be extremely wary of it, because candlestick patterns are very much prone to what we call data snooping bias. So data snooping bias is basically like you go through all of the different possibilities and then you pick the one that works the best. And when you do that, that doesn't necessarily mean that you found something that really has a real statistical aberration, consistent behavior that you can take advantage of. It's more likely that the one that you come out with was just randomly happened to be the best. It's kind of like taking a shotgun and shooting the broadside of a barn 100 times and then looking at the place where the most bullets hit and drawing a target there and saying, look at how good of a shot I am. Right? How confident are you that the next shot is actually going to be on the bullseye? Probably not very, right? Data snooping bias. So there was way back in the day, like between the 70s and 2000s, where people said, oh, here's some evidence that like technical analysis works. Like I found this thing, I found this thing. And then what happened is they dug into it. And these other guys went and did another study, and they found that between data snooping bias, which is, just find the one that works the best, it doesn't necessarily end up working forward. And then curve fitting, which is, you have a bunch of different variables in there and you optimize the algorithm until it performs the way that you want. And you basically overfit your model and it doesn't end up having any predictive power going forward. Between those two things basically discredited every study that had been performed up to that point on the technical analysis. And so that was when then the field kind of said, oh, well, you need to do these things. You need to have a different training period versus a test period. So I can train it on this period and then I can run my actual test on this period. And that will prove that it continues to have use going forward. These kinds of methods to deal with the data snooping and curve fitting biases. And when you do that, momentum survives, but pretty much almost everything else that you probably hear about in trading, it does not. And that includes candlesticks. You want a technical pattern? Here's a technical pattern that you can incorporate into your trading especially if you're trading equity indexes, that in the long run will work for you. I can't tell you how big of a drawdown you will have. You will probably still fail trying to trade this strategy, but there is a pattern that I'd say is probably the most consistent and persistent pattern in the markets today, and it is buy the dip. If it is it down, buy it. And not like it. Don't do that with individual stocks. Like, don't go and buy CrowdStrike. I think you just kind of let that do its thing and then come back 3 months from now when everybody's forgotten about it, and then look at it and decide if you want to buy it, right? Okay, but like when it's the equity indexes, are we down? Then buy it. And yeah, you'll have nasty drawdowns, but it is a net profitable strategy in the long run. And what you can do is, contribute a little bit every month. Like, contribute to your IRA or whatever it is that you have every month. And then if there's a month where like the stock market is down, just contribute more. I don't know. Those kinds of strategies don't make sense for most people because like you're not necessarily going to be able to contribute more or less that month. But anyways, if you can. Yeah, and if you do have the ability to do that, you're probably already maxing that out anyways. So. But it's a pattern. It is. I saw this thing the other day, and it was an AMA of a guy on the day trading subreddit. And he claims that he has withdrawn $300,000 from funded trader programs. And the thing that I thought was interesting about that wasn't that he had made $300,000, but that he said that if he was trading his own account, he probably would have gone bust. That he probably wouldn't have made anything. And the reason being that, like, because the combine cuts you off, essentially. That was incredibly interesting to me. Because I guess it kind of reinforces this thing that I've been saying, that like the combines basically encourage people to take really big risks. And maybe I think that the reason why you're seeing a lot of funded trader programs seemingly struggling here is because basically all of their traders are just the hot hands. They're not actually really making money off of the traders like trading. And so when they go bust, it hurts. Bonds looking pretty stable today despite the weekend news. Yeah, the bonds did not really react to this at all. But I think that that's primarily because the market is pretty confident at the moment that Donald Trump is going to win and that Republicans will control both the House and Senate, although with very small majorities. And they don't think that Joe Biden dropping out changes that. Now, if something happened, if all of the sudden Josh Shapiro was the presidential candidate and Kamala Harris was gone, then those odds might change. Like, I think that Josh Shapiro would be a very formidable opponent simply because he's the governor of Pennsylvania. And that would probably give him a lock on Pennsylvania. Still be close, but I think that he would almost certainly win Pennsylvania, and that would greatly increase their chances of winning the presidency. So I think that's why. But we can't really know for sure. So something that you got to remember is that traders, and money managers have an incomplete understanding of politics at best. And their reaction to political news tends to be a little bit juvenile, in my opinion. Tends to be a little bit juvenile and is just like the most simple, surface level, knee-jerk reaction that you can possibly have to the news, right? Like, oh, Donald Trump is going to win. he has tariffs, so that's going to be bad for inflation. We should sell treasuries, right? When what Donald Trump will actually do when he's in office versus what he's saying right now are two completely different things, and there are certain things that he just simply won't be able to accomplish with the stroke of a pen, right? The market reaction usually doesn't factor those things in, which is why politics can actually be a really big edge for us sometimes. For instance, market thinks Donald Trump is almost certainly going to win the presidency. I do think that he is the favorite to win, but I think that the chances of him winning the presidency are much more unknowable than we realize, because there's likely to be so many unknown developments between now and election day. There we go. Kamala Harris isn't going to win, and I think we might be even more screwed with her as a candidate than we were with Biden. And no, that doesn't make me a rabid Trump supporter. It makes me a realist. I agree. So, like, come back to this thing that's like, you know, like if I'm on level with the Democrats and give them advice for what you're going to do now, my advice after Joe Biden having actually dropped out and chosen to support Kamala Harris is still the same, which is that you are unlikely to win, and you're probably going to lose this contest. And at this point, one of the big things that you should be considering is, how are you going to lose? And are you going to lose by co-opting the party, just shoving down whatever it is that you want or you think is the most likely winner, and despite what the actual public thinks or wants, and just shove them through like you shoved Clinton through, like you shoved Biden through? And if you do that, I think that that's going to do immeasurable harm to the Democrat Party in the future. How can anybody trust the Democrat Party right now after knowing that they've basically been lying to us for the last 4 years or whatever about what Joe Biden's mental condition was? And how can anybody trust them knowing that, you know, they basically pushed this guy through that they didn't really think was all that great and competent, but they did it anyways because they thought that was their best chance to win. I just don't think that that's a good thing for the Democrat Party in the long run. So, like, the best thing to do right now, I think, is to run a process so that the people actually feel like they're having a say in what's going on in the Democrat Party, right? Let the voters actually have a say, and hope that the person that you put up as the sacrificial lamb is not that great of a candidate, so that in 2028 you can run a good candidate. That would be my strategy as the Democrat Party right now. Kamala Harris actually would be a really good sacrificial lamb, except for that, like, the Democrat base hates her, so. Don't get the benefit of shoring up your base and resolving all of the concerns and anxieties that the Democrat Party base has. Because you're probably not going to win. Like, I think that the issue here is that Donald Trump has just become a very strong candidate. As much as there's the hate about him and everything, he's actually kind of increased his support since last time. And there's some real excitement behind his campaign from the people that are really following him that wasn't there before. His base is going to come out and vote for him. He's going to be very hard to beat. Like Obama would have a hard time beating Donald Trump right now. think Obama would probably win, but it would be close. Yeah, so here's the story. Let's read this about I don't actually I think I do. This whole stream is the bash Kamala Harris stream. It just is. I think that you want to know who we are putting up and what all of the political implications of that are and how it may possibly pertain to us in the markets, because these things right now might not like have a direct impact on the markets, but it's context and information that could help you determine what markets are going to do during future events. So Kamala Harris is kind of the front runner now. We need to know a little bit about her. So here's the Daily Mail story. So keep in mind the source, but they're talk about Kamala Harris's stumblings during being vice president. Kamala Harris is branded a bully and accused of inflicting constant soul-destroying criticism on staff by ex-aides who claim she refused to read briefings, then scolded them if she was slated for being unprepared as 4 staffers head for the exit. A former underling of Kamala Harris, she routinely refused to review briefing materials and would then scold employees when she appeared unprepared. The ex-employees likened the vice president to a workplace bully. Even more staffers are considering leaving Vice President Kamala Harris's office, people familiar with the conversations revealed. 4 top aides to Harris will exit in the span of about a month. Harris's staff are leaving because they are burned out and they don't want to be permanently branded a Harris person, Axios reported. Among those leaving are her chief spokesperson, Simone Sanders. Peter Vels, Director of Press Operations, and Vince Evans, Deputy Director of the Office of Public Engagement, are also expected to leave. Ashley Etienne, Harris's former communications director, left last month. This is from a Washington Post piece. A result of interviews with 18 people connected to the vice president, also alleged that she would fail to read briefings they'd prepared, only to turn on them if she was subsequently criticized or for being unprepared. The claims from staff who work for Harris were published amid confirmed departures of 2 high-level staffers, with 2 others who are said to be heading for the door too. Wait, that's what we already read. Come on, give me more detail. Her poll ratings have tanked, with top Democrats said to be appalled at the idea of her running for president in 2024 should Joe Biden decide not to seek a second term. So this was all like 2 years ago, right? So one of the things I'm seeing, so on Reddit, there's tons of people that are like, oh, and just like that, old age isn't a problem anymore. Okay, it was never age. It was mental acuity. Okay. Donald Trump clearly has better mental acuity at the moment than Joe Biden does after that debate. That's just no question. I don't think that it's unreasonable for a 70-year-old to be president, 70, almost 80-year-old to be president. Pushing it though, and it's all depends on the person. I would prefer that we not have 70-year-olds be president though. Joe Biden dropping out was the most dark Brandon move ever? Okay. I really think that Democrats are overestimating how much Joe Biden dropping out improves their chances. Especially if it's Kamala Harris, I don't think that it actually increases their chances of winning. Like, anytime that there's chaos like that, it hurts the party and it makes it harder for them to win things. Well, we got about 10-15 minutes left. I'm afraid that this is going to be a slow week in the markets. The problem is the market does very much care about GDP and core PCE. And we did see last month in particular the markets be a little bit constrained ahead of those risk events, even though they're typically not that big of a deal. I think that all of the focus this week is probably going to go to CrowdStrike. We should be trading if you want an intraday trade, it probably should be CrowdStrike. Although, I don't know, that one's probably a shit show. I don't know what kind of information we could have that would predict what CrowdStrike is going to do in the next 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Treasuries kind of affords us those opportunities. Wall Street Bets. How much damage did the CrowdStrike outage really cause? Well, it's one of those things that you can't really specifically quantify, but it's not just going to be in the billions of dollars. It's going to be the hundreds of billions, if not trillions. Like, the GDP for next quarter is definitely going to cite the CrowdStrike as, okay, so like when we have a big snowstorm, and that kind of affects people's propensity to go out and buy things and so forth. Well, okay, I wanted to go and buy sanding sealer on Friday night so that I could do the sealing Saturday morning, and the hardware store wasn't up and running, right? So like nobody can go buy. It will have a noticeable impact that you will be able to see in GDP. So, like, just think of like a percentage of GDP. This is really actually probably the better way to think of it. As I'm reading around here about Kamala Harris, like people keep bringing up that now they can, like they're talking about the AIDS quitting. Now they can be unburdened by what has been. Yeah. They're just going to bring that up over and over again. President Trump's A team had a turnover rate of 92%. Not surprising. Do you have a smartwatch? I do not. Maybe I should get one. You know what? I would like to get a Garmin Instinct. I will go from time to time to my local market classified ads. I'll come in here and I'll search Garmin Instinct. And then I'll look at it and I'll be like, do I want a Garmin Instinct for $150? Well, it's the old one. Somebody else is selling an old one for $75. This one actually, maybe I should get. Maybe I should get this one. I think that they have an Instinct too, but I think the Instinct one looks great. And it would monitor all of my vitals and so forth. That's what the point of a smartwatch is, isn't it? But then the reality is that I have like a normal non-smartwatch, and I really, really like it. I really like it, but I don't wear it very often. I only wear it when I'm like going out to the store, and I think that somebody's actually going to look at my wrist. Like on stream, I usually don't wear it. It's over there. It's not even at my desk. It's on the little landing pad over there, because you can't see my wrists. I was thinking about this over the weekend for some reason. Like I gotta. Maybe because we've always talked about like, you need to look the part. I don't think that I want to wear a suit every stream, but like maybe instead of a t-shirt, we should just have, like a rugby polo or something, like just go and get a bunch of stuff from Ralph Lauren. Ultra preppy looking. That would be the part, right? Linen shirts, and just look preppy all the time. Maybe if I really want to wear a hat, a tennis hat. Because you can't see the watch. So it's got to be the shirt. I can still wear my North Face shorts. I love these shorts. They're like, they got an 8-inch inseam and they're like really cool. Like the air just flows through them. So I love it. What app prompted you to ask, do you have a smartwatch? I went further with that comment than a normal person probably should. But you asked a question that I think about all the time. I'm still kind of on this kick, like, when I'm bored, go to Instagram just to look at ads. Like, Instagram has this cool thing that, like, when you look at an ad, then it will give you a feed that's nothing but ads. And I kind of enjoy that, actually. And trying to figure out what is the ad for, and then how long do I actually want to stare at it to give the feedback to the algorithm. But this is a thing that I found. You know what? I would really like to have more of a business selling, you know, like we have a business with the indicators, and that's largely like, these are indicators that I've been using. I spruced them up so that you could be able to use them because everybody wanted to have them, and I do have to charge a little bit for them to be able to upkeep the indicators and all of that and justify putting the time and energy into it. But I would also like to have a business that is kind of more of like serves the general public, you know, like clothes or whatever the thing is. And I constantly find myself, you know, browsing on these websites that sell clothes or whatever the deal is, and feeling like there are fundamental issues with this place as a business. Like, they've been around for years, so their businesses probably aren't that bad. But like, if I'm going and I'm buying a t-shirt from you, like, what am I actually getting? That's one of the first things that I get is, like, if I go to a website and they don't say what material the shirt is made out of, no interest. Probably means it's 100% polyester, right? Like what sets your stuff apart from everybody else? I think that they think it's the design, but like, most of these designs aren't that cool. So it's got to be something about, like, there's a utility to that piece of clothing that I don't get anywhere else, or there's something about that look that I don't get anywhere else. That's not the case, especially for workout gear, because workout gear is just like usually a solid color and stuff like that, right? What are you doing? Or another one that I have, another issue that I come across is that they do have products that are unique, and they have so many of them that you can't sort out what is what. Like, I was looking for work boots. You go to like any work boot place, Thorogood. Thorogood is, I think, probably the worst on this. Red Wing, etc. It's like, what's the difference between these boots? Is it just the look of them, or are some of them better for certain tasks than others? Because I want a boot that it doesn't have to be waterproof. In fact, I would prefer that it's not waterproof. I would like it to be really breathable because it's hot here. I want it to be super breathable, but protect my toes and allow me to stand on concrete for a really long time. Which boot can I pick to do that? And they don't have filters and stuff that really help me do that. And you have like way too many options. So like, a customer comes onto the website, can't make sense of what they're supposed to buy, and then they don't get anything. Workout gear, plastic crop, it sucks and it stinks, literally, yeah. I don't think that you want to go to like exclusively cotton, especially for workout gear though. And you want workout gear that is like silver infused and things like that. Lululemon, you know, but Lululemon has been struggling lately for some reason. For work, it depends on the sort of thing that I'm getting, but for like compression shorts, I always go to Virus. And this is another thing. So like, some of these brands are not like oh, we have our website up, and then you go to the website and the website helps you select the best piece of clothing, yada yada yada. That's not the way that they actually work. The way that they actually work is you like the brand, like I like Virus, and then I get all of the emails, and every time that they're releasing a new product, I see that they're releasing a new product, and then in the release of the new product, they will give an explanation of, here's why we created this new particular piece, and this is who we're going after for that. And then you go, oh, does that fit me or not? And then you get it, or you don't get it. And then they run out of the items so quickly that, like, even though it's still on the store, like, they don't have all the sizes and colors and everything. And so that's why, maybe why some of these brands, you go to the items and the items don't even have descriptions and don't really tell you what they're geared towards. It's because they don't make that much money from people buying it that way. And that's the way that it's very much the case for workout gear. Timberland, Red Wing, or Danner, the best boots you need, like a 100-year-old company. Dude, there's so many. The website I was looking at was Keen, but I've looked at all of them. And it's like a persistent problem across all work boots. It's like, okay, your company has a good reputation for work boots, but I am not working every day. But when I am working, I want a shoe that breathes, allows me to stand on concrete for long periods of time, and can get dirty, but it's not going to be for like mud and being waterproof and things like that. Probably would need to buy a waterproof hiking boot for that. Right? And all of those companies, what is the best boot for that? Oh, and I would like it to be black, if it could be black and look cool, but primarily padding. And I just can't. What is the best boot for that? Can't decide. I don't get enough information on those websites to determine that. Keen does the best with it. Red Wing kind of has like a top boot, but I kind of feel like for my purposes that Red Wings would be like way overkill. But it is largely a problem everywhere that like the quality of the materials that you're getting and everything suck. Like that's the thing, is clothes are cheaper than ever now, so you don't notice the inflation in clothes, but that's because it's all polyester now. You used to be able to buy a t-shirt for like 10, 20 bucks or whatever, but it was 100% cotton. Now if you want to buy 100% cotton, it's like almost $100 sometimes. It's crazy. You just need a steel-toed sneak. Yeah, that is what I need. Actually, I don't even know if it needs to be steel-toed. The ones that I was looking at from Keen had a carbon fiber foot protection. So a lighter boot, I think that'd be good. Because it's like a piece of wood dropping on my foot is what I would need to protect myself with. Not like a big metal steel bar or something like that. So I'm not blue collar. I just cosplay as one on the weekend. And it reminds me, I saw this thread on r/economics where people were basically arguing about, okay, so if we deport all of the illegal immigrants, what kind of an economic impact is that going to have? Well, if it happened all at once, it probably would have a pretty negative impact because businesses very much rely on that supply of illegal immigrant labor to keep their costs down. And it would be something that would happen slowly. Like first, a lot of immigrants would self-deport and then, over time, and it wouldn't happen uniformly. So I think that it would be something that the economy would be able to deal with and adjust to. But I think that the net effect would be that manual labor would become more valuable and make more money. And everything that we buy that involves that manual labor become more expensive, including houses, by the way. Especially houses at 5 feet. And food. Food probably too. Drop a weight? Why would I drop a weight on my steel toe shoe? Anyways, it's just like a wood board might hit my foot. But even that, it's not even that. To be honest, I could probably just have sneakers, because I've never dropped something on my foot. I think it's mostly like I want to look the part. But I just want a pair of shoes that don't get all dusty, right? Because they get all the sawdust on them. Is the biggest problem that I have. I digress. I've kind of been in this mode where my budget's not so tight, and I've been buying a lot of the smaller things, you know, items that are usually under $150 that I probably should have been buying all this time, and I never do because I just don't care and I want to save money, like clothes, sunglasses, etc. So I've kind of like, and it kind of gives me something to look forward to every month, is like one purchase like that, one or two purchases like that. Unless like I'm actively going to need it. Like a bunch of bought a bunch of stuff when we did the air show, sun gear and stuff, you know. So anyways, it's time for me to get going, guys. Had some fun. Oh, you don't want his steel toe. Okay, yeah, probably. There's all different types of composites and stuff though. Yeah. But you know, more protection the heavier it is. And I don't need it to be heavy. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay excellent.